Helen, thank you so much for joining us to talk about motor neurone disease. I guess to start with, in simple terms, could you tell us what motor neurone disease is?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me in this interview. So MND is motor neurone disease. Is a disease which affects the motor neurons of our bodies, and the motor neurons play a really important role. They take the messages from our brain and the signals to our muscles that tell our arms and our bodies and our diaphragm to move. Motor neurone disease is when those motor neurons are shortened and affected, and that means that those signals that are telling us to walk and pick things up don't reach those muscles. Those muscles then stiffen and then shorten and effectively wasten, which means that somebody with MND will experience a loss of movement, and that will include their hands, their feet, their voice, unfortunately, and eventually as well their breathing, the muscles of breathing. So it's unbelievably cruel.
You've spoken there about the long term of what will happen to someone who unfortunately has MND. What are the symptoms that people should be aware of, and perhaps the biggest symptoms to look out for?
Absolutely. So catching those early symptoms is really important, and those early symptoms will include kind of mild weakness, and depending on the different types of MND, there are 4 types, will be where that weakening may start. So it might be in your hands. You might be going to pick up your cup of tea and just find a clumsiness in those muscles, or you might start tripping, and with not really realizing what you're tripping over. And for those that have bulbar MND, which is a really rare form of MND, which will start in the throat, people will experience slurred speech. They might find the S's or a different kind of vowel sound or consonant sound is difficult to pronounce. And that over a longish period of time, maybe you notice it getting worse. They're the kind of real initial symptoms of MND, and you should go and see a doctor.
I think the common misconception is that MND is a disease that's quite rare, but I think it probably affects more people than we perhaps are aware of. What is the number of people that it does actually affect in the UK?
So it is considered a rare disease. Your lifetime chances of developing MND is 1 in 300. What we see in the population is it's around 6 people are diagnosed with MND every day. Unfortunately, 6 people die with MND every day. So that means that there is a constant number of around 5,000 people in the UK living with MND at any one time. So it's rare, but not as rare as maybe you would expect. It has the same prevalence as something like multiple sclerosis.
We've seen, sadly, over the last few years, really, that some public figures have come out and revealed that they've got MND. Stephen Darby, the former footballer, who in our football sphere is probably the most common name, Doddy Weir as well. How important is it that these people that are perhaps well known are speaking about the disease?
It's making the world a difference. Awareness is half the battle with any disease, but especially for the MND community. Having people like John Lenrose and Stephen Darby and most recently Marcus Stewart kind of bravely share their diagnosis with their supporters, but also, wider society. It means that people are becoming more aware of MND, and that's going to help people who maybe have never heard of it before, that are experiencing symptoms and might then go to the doctors that little bit earlier, but also for the MND community to be recognised and for society to kind of start listening. It's really important, and I think being involved in the community, there's a growing sense of pride that the community around them are now understanding and are kind of embracing them. when you get that diagnosis and your physical abilities might start to deteriorate, it's very easy to say, right, I'm not going to go out, I'm going to stay in. But because society is more aware and people are more accepting of maybe that somebody can't speak and give their coffee order, actually it gives a lot of our community pride and confidence, and that's priceless, and that's amazing. And I'll always be forever grateful to those big names that have so bravely said, you know, we've got MND and it's okay to watch and follow us on this journey.
Of course, you have yourselves, the Motor Neurone Disease Association, you've got the Derby Rimmer Foundation, but what about other terms of support? What kind of support out there is there for someone who is perhaps newly diagnosed with MND or has been going through it quite a long time?
So anyone that suspects that they may have symptoms or has been recently diagnosed, you know, reach out to your doctors and the NHS and statutory services, because they're going to be there to be able to kind of help you get that diagnosis if you haven't, or kind of get you into the neurologist care system as well. The MND Association, we have a network of 22 different care networks and care centres, and we fund those that are accessible through, again, the NHS services, and they're hubs of being able to then coordinate care, whether it's with OTs, occupational therapists, or speech and language therapists. You'll be able to then access your wheelchair services and lots of other kind of really important services that people are going to need. One of the most important, I think, kind of services out there is the MND Connect helpline that, again, the MND Association funds, because that's going to be a first point of call for maybe somebody who has symptoms or a loved one of somebody that's just been diagnosed. Pick up that phone and speak to somebody who is trained and has got answers and can signpost you as well to whether it's advice on how to access benefits if a carer is no longer able to work full time because of their caring responsibilities. The MND Association also has financial support, and I think that's especially important in today's climate, that if you have got MND, you might not be able to carry on working. That has huge financial implications for a family. And so the MND Association and foundations like the Doddy Weir, My Name is Doddy Foundation can help fund whether it's home adaptations or quality of life grants or grants to help children, because so many families have young children affected. And then there's kind of plenty of local resources. I think reach out to your local MND branch. The MND Association has 90 branches across the UK that are local volunteers. We organise regular support groups. We organise having one-to-one volunteers, specialist trained association visitors that can go into people's homes and provide that one-to-one support and emotional, and just can again signpost, but actually be there in a family's home and say, well, I've just noticed that you're struggling with that. Perhaps, you know, we can help you with this. And voice banking, I think, is really important as well, because 80% of people that are diagnosed with MND are likely to lose some form of their voice, if not completely lose their voice. So being able to voice bank to get the way that you speak, the phrases that you love, that you're known for in your family, to get those recorded. So when your voice goes, you're able to say I love you in your own dialect and your own accent is really important. But I mean, that's just a few. There's more support out there, definitely.
Something I found so cruel when researching MND is that there's currently no cure for it. Associations like yourself, you fund research and look into ways that this disease can be cured. How is the research currently going? And, is there any light at the end of the tunnel in terms of a cure?
Well, you are 100% right. At the moment, when somebody is diagnosed, they're told there's no effective treatment and there's no cure. And so the prognosis for MND is anywhere between sort of 6 months to 5 years, but the majority of people will die within 2 years, and that's really that's cruel. That's difficult and impossible to hear. So research is vitally important. At the moment, the MND Association is funding £15.1 million worth of research, looking into trying to find the causes of MND, because that's still not fully understood, why these motor neurons are kind of shortening in some people and not others. We're also looking into what treatments there are available, and how we can kind of either alleviate the symptoms, but most importantly, provide a longevity to somebody's prognosis, and ultimately looking forward to finding that cure. And there is light. For 40 years now, the association has been kind of fundraising and trying to kind of raise the profile of MND research and try and find those answers that we so desperately deserve. And we are now at a point where we know where to look. Treatments are starting to kind of show that there are mechanisms of kind of treating aspects of the disease. There's huge hope on the horizon with the very recent kind of success of the United to End MND campaign, which was a campaign led by the MND Association. My name is Doddy, and Stephen Darby Foundation. We all joined together and we lobbied the government for £50 million for MND research, and in the hope that with that added boost of money, we were able to finally pinpoint effective treatments. And as of this week, the government have kind of are saying that they're going to transfer £30 million of that. And so with that added boost, the researchers certainly have the momentum now that we haven't seen for forever. And the hope is that will find the treatments and the cure eventually. And it's not untreatable, it's not incurable, it's just underfunded. And that's why every penny kind of does help in finding us those answers.
Of course, it's not hard to understand that times are tough at the moment, but it really, I think, is the message is that every penny really does help, and even if you can give just £1, it will go a long way.
Oh, absolutely, because people diagnosed with MND, they need help now, and that £1 does go a long way in just showing somebody that's being diagnosed that society's there to support them. And obviously any penny put into research is going to get us closer to finding that cure, because it is only possible through research. So yeah, every penny does make a difference.
So I guess the whole reason we're having this conversation is that on Boxing Day, Exeter City's match against Portsmouth will be dedicated to Motor Neurone Disease Association in support of Marcus Stewart and now sadly Pete Evely as well. We're very grateful to Portsmouth FC for supporting it as well. Both sides will be wearing T-shirts in the warm-up with details on how to support the MND and Derby Rimmer Foundation. But what message would you have for the supporters of both sides, on match day and in the build-up, how they can really get involved and help support the causes?
My main message is thank you, because all your support makes a difference. And as I mentioned earlier, awareness is half the battle. So please take the opportunity on Boxing Day, when this match is happening, to look up what these symptoms are, to better understand MND, because that makes a huge difference in helping our MND community feel part of wider society if people understand the disease. And please, times are hard and everybody is struggling, but if we can add a few more pennies into a bucket, then those pennies can truly make a difference to supporting families now that are diagnosed, but ultimately provide that hope that one day we will find that cure that we so desperately deserve, because it is cruel.
Well, hopefully every Exeter City fan and Portsmouth will get behind it, and we'll of course thank them when they do. Helen, thank you very much for your time.